Hello, Goa fans. Mark DJ Solitaire here with episode 39 of Retro Goa Explorations, my series in which I present in every episode a track from the 1990s Goa psychedelic dance movement. And this week, a track which has long been a favorite, the title of which I have my interpretation of. I actually got a lot of insight about this track from one of the musicians, but I neglected to ask about the title. But I've got my say on this, and I think it's logic would dictate it's probably something along these lines, and it's really kind of something that I think we need these days even more. This is Antidote by Blue Planet Corporation, which was a duo of, and I always hope that I pronounce names properly when they're from another language, Gabriel Masurel and Christophe Lebras. And it's Gabriel who very kindly offered me a lot of insight about this track and its production and how it came to be, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you. Certainly, the track, the title for me sounds like how I often felt about this music, that it's an antidote to the challenges of ordinary life. That, we would go into our weekly events which is that's how often they were back when I was going in Tokyo at the time. And this music was like an injection of this kind of intergalactic medicine that was helping to heal us. And again, after what was covered in the last episode, we're all still reeling from the horrors of the attacks on an event and the country in Israel, the event from within our global community. This music, the power of this music to, it strikes a chord in us quite literally as well as metaphysically. And so I first got this track on this CD on the POF label. Now, I'm not sure if it was, again, it's in 95 to 96. It did come out in 95. I might have gotten it then. It might have been a touch later. But there's a great story that Gabriel very kindly shared with me about this. So he said that they were approached, as was Transwave, by Fred Gito, again, I believe, in terms of pronunciation, who was working for Step 2 House, right? And so Transwave had their EP on Step 2 House, again, an EP that was more like an album. Prana had theirs under the name of Tayo. And he was making this new label with Olivier Le Castor, who was one of the first DJs in the Paris techno house scene. And it was to be called Product of France. I believe it's Product of France and not Product of Trance, but POF. That's kind of what it sounds like, but it's definitely had a lot of trance products on it. And he was looking for French artists making trance. And so that's what they did. And the photo that I'm showing of the two musicians in this video was taken specifically. They needed a photo. It was kind of, this PR thing. And, Gabriel said neither he nor Christophe really cared about their image. And the photographer is trying to get them to look very serious for this photo. And they kept on laughing. What Gabriel had to say was that they had a strong EBM influence. That's not EDM, which is this nightmarish electronic dance music that's unfortunately hitting the mainstream with horrible stuff, but electronic body music, like from 242. So there was a strong influence from that kind of music. So some of the bleeps and certain bass patterns. Gabriel also said that they built their tracks like songs. So there's an intro, a verse, a break, and a chorus. And so, they always had that kind of structure in mind. And this is something I've talked to before, right? About how these tracks really had, a lot of the producers had really wonderful storylines and very, clear structures. He said it was 100% into the dance floor music scene. And they were definitely into, the musical content. and what was going to obviously make people move. And instrument geeks, I think, will be really excited by some of the details as well that Gabriel shared here. So I'm going to have to read this off because it's all over my head. It said most of the rhythmic sounds were played by an Akai S900. I'm quoting Gabriel here. I remember a little trick, as the S900 was not a real stereo sampler. I was programming the same sounds, mostly bleeps here, on both right and left side, and I was detuning a tiny bit, one of the two, to create a stereo image of the sound. That's pretty cool. All the little acid evolving melodic sounds come from an English expander Cheetah MS6. The MS6 and Juno 106 have both been used on every Blue Planet Corporation track from 94, 95 until today. There's this sort of EBM vibe coming from the mid-bass loop, played by the expander Yamaha TX81Z. FM synthesis extensively used by Front 242 from the mid to the end of the 80s. The rolling TB303 was sampled on the Akai from a real TB303. And Christoph from Denshi had purchased a TB303 at the beginning of the 90s, which was not so easy to find in Paris at the time, and no internet. So I think we had to sample his TB, as I do not remember that we had one at the time. And finally, the melodic sound comes from the Korg Wave Station. I used this synth a lot in the 90s. Absolutely fabulous insights. Thank you so much, Gabriel. So what struck me back when I was listening to this track on my portable CD player, yes, we did have those, with these fantastic Sony headphones that I had. I mean, really, I think was still the best sounding headphones I ever had. They cost me like $50 at the time. The sound quality on this one is just light years ahead of anything else on this CD and most of the tracks that were coming out at that time. There is a depth, there's a presence, there's, the whole acoustic, instead of like being in this, kind of limited acoustic, it's like it's in this gigantic hall. It's absolutely phenomenal. So I just love the transparency and the clarity. The musical content is fantastic. And the speed, though, this is what's really interesting because it is a fast one. It's 150 BPM. So that was pretty fast. There were some tracks of that speed at the time. Not a whole lot, though. So this was a bit unusual, but to have this level, first of all, of the beauty, like the melodic beauty, the harmonic beauty, so the whole structure, right? So the singing melody that you can hum along with, and then the way all the layers work at this speed, as opposed to it just being kind of a mindless fast thing. It's really, really interesting. And this really is a beautiful, beautiful track. So, like a balm to soothe the soul and to heal the spirit, as I believe this music is, we have this musical Antidote. So here we are with Antidote from Blue Planet Corporation. Very light sound. There's this very catchy riff. It's got the rhythm and the melodic shaping. That pulsing at the bottom. And then the way this just goes up. And again, the structure is brilliant because this goes up, serves a purpose, and it leads to it's just like something's completely opened up. Some bit of hyperspace. And just again that up and down sort of movement that I've talked about in a lot of tracks from this period. So clean. The sounds are really, really light and fresh and clear and uplifting. Just the shape of the bass line. Just that one. Got two different things going on there, right? Just again that lightness and that sort of pitch bending almost, right? That kind of shaping of the sound. Love the bleeps that interject here and there, just fantastic. And again, that bass line is super clear all the way through. The side of the voice that's coming in. Next round. Again, right? I just love the way these little things pop in. Every round of 8, you're going to have a little something. And the key melody should be coming in, I think, here. And just really catchy riff, right? Just how clean, sharp, and crisp all of these sounds are. It's really very floaty. Uplifting. That riff, while all those other things are bouncing up and down with it. So many things are going on at the same time. I know I keep saying this every episode, but honestly, the complex harmonies with the blending of tones. Rhythmic elements. Beautiful chords getting created by all these different riffs. And rhythms as well. Interesting little break here. A little variation on the riffs we've had. And that kind of strong rhythmic, it's a little bit more of an insistent Morse code kind of thing. Love the texture. Going up and down. There's a new little signature here. Oh, uplifting. Little bit going up again. Ooh, notice how the percussion dropped out and in. And everything is so beautifully layered, right? All of the different texturing and a lot of content. Textured little zaps that just shoot in every now and again. And at this point, you know, it's just this looping over and over again. This really puts you into a trance-like state. These beautiful sounds of riffs. It's like you lose track of how many times it's happened. It's such an effective break, right? With the percussion coming out, but you still have content from earlier on that's presented in a different way. And again, the way little bit of percussion gets brought in, but not the kick, so it builds up tension. Tension that gets created as this stuff is going on. Notice those new sounds now, these new kind of little laser zaps. The way that riff is voiced and the way those other bits are in there as well. Driving up. That all drops out, and this is where you would be mixing into the next track. So you'd already be into the next track with that. Wow. I mean, so much musical content, beautifully structured, so many different melodic and harmonic hooks and riffs happening at the same time, with all of those zaps and whooshes and those sort of, climbing up and down bits. Absolutely gorgeous. I think this is a vastly underappreciated track. Because the Pleiadians did a remix of this, I believe in '96, and that one got a lot of circulation. I think this one was released on a couple of other comps, right? There's a lot of licensing going on then, so I'm sorry I didn't check. But I remember seeing that Pleiadians mix everywhere, and I think that ended up getting picked up more by a lot of folks than this original. And this one is just a gem. Now, there's another track of theirs, which I didn't ask Gabriel about. I believe it might be pronounced Joko, but it's XOCO. And it might predate this one. And when I heard that one, and I have played it out, that reminded me also of the atmosphere of that first party of Ollie's in October '94. It was the same kind of lightness, and it's very similar to, in a sense, to this one. But this is the first one that I got that I knew, where I saw Blue Planet Corporation. And as I said, that title of Antidote is very much how I found this music, and the scene and all of the things that went with it really were like an antidote to our dysfunctional society and our dysfunctional planet. And that this was how, we can all get together and get along and, celebrate being alive together. So at a time right now where all of that has been thrown into upheaval, again, this track, and I think this music, hopefully, even as we're really struggling and considering and thinking of our friends who have suffered such horrific losses, hopefully we can remember this kind of energy and experience what comes with that. And again, hopefully we come together and dance again soon with these kinds of musical antidotes. So thanks again to Gabriel for sharing all of those memories. Hopefully I didn't mess things up when I was reading it. And check the YouTube comments below just in case I needed to make a correction. And I will sign off, Mark DJ Solitaire, and I will leave you with the complete track Antidote by Blue Planet Corporation.